Hey, Yinz guys and gals, gather round for a journey like no other. It's time to hop on board the Where Yinz Goin podcast, proudly brought to you by Dreams by Design Travel. From the rivers that meet at the point to form downtown Pittsburgh to the furthest corners of the globe, that'll be your compass, your confidant, your companion in that as we explore the wonders of travel. Kick back, relax on your couch, and let the wanderlust wash over Yinz as we discover new horizons and reminisce about old favorites. With Dreams by Design Travel by our side, the sky's the limit. Join Matt on the Where Yinz Goin podcast because when it comes to travel, the journey's just getting started. And now, without further ado, let's give a shout for your guide through the highways and byways of travel, the man with a map, the voice of the steel city, Matt Trader.
How Yinz doing? Welcome to the Where Yinz Goin podcast, brought to you by Dreams by Design Travel. I'm Matt. I'll be your host. Joining me today is Amanda, who has been a travel advisor with Dreams by Design Travel for just about 3 years, and she has done seven behind-the-scenes tours at Walt Disney World Resort and Disneyland Resort. Welcome to the podcast, Amanda.
Hi, thanks for having me, Matt.
So we'll get into the behind-the-scenes tours at both Walt Disney World and Disneyland in a minute, but I like to start every podcast with this question. What is your favorite place that you have visited, or is there a place that you would like to visit the most?
I think the most favorite place that I've ever visited has to be the Grand Canyon. My friends and I took a trip to Las Vegas, so we didn't hike the Grand Canyon because don't get that impression from me. I'm not an outside sort of girl. So we took a day trip to the Grand Canyon, and there's nothing that quite makes you realize just how small you are in the world by witnessing something just as majestic as the Grand Canyon, one of Earth's, natural wonders. And it really just took my breath away. It's something that I will never forget. And it really, my husband is a hiker and he's always trying to get me to do mountains and all sorts of stuff. And I'm not that type of person, but I would go if I could just, see it and go back to a hotel later in the evening, but that's probably one of my favorite places that I've ever seen. It's just absolutely gorgeous.
I have never been there. I've flown over it once.
Yeah.
I forget where we were going, if it was to Phoenix or if it was to Southern California, whatever. But I remember looking out the window and being able to see it as we flew over. My dad was on this podcast when we talked about Yosemite National Park a little while ago, and that is the place that he mentioned as that he wants to go to. And me and him, we've done some somewhat strenuous hiking in Yosemite National Park, and so he wants to hike part of the Grand Canyon at least. My mom is more along your lines of, okay, let's go to the Grand Canyon. Okay, there it is. All right, let's go back to
that was me.
No,
we walked the path, my type of hiking. We walked the path down to the bottom and then back up, and it was about enough for me.
Yeah. Although I will wholeheartedly agree with you that while I like hiking, I'm much more of a day hiker than a backpacker because I really like indoor plumbing and sleeping in a bed. So
yeah, and I like, showers with warm water.
it was funny that whenever we went the first trip to Yosemite, my dad and I went on, I splurged for the really expensive hotel in Yosemite Valley, and he got the much less expensive option of it's a wood frame canvas tent, basically. So they have wood frame, they put this canvas over it to enclose it. And so you have to put your shoes on to go use the bathroom. So, but he was in my room every night getting a shower. So
I would be there too. That's my kind of camping.
So we'll get into the offerings of what tours are available now. They've changed over the years. We're going to start with a list of the ones that Amanda's done, and then we'll do the ones that I've done as well. So Amanda, at Walt Disney World, which ones have you gone through?
So I have done the ones that are still currently available. I have done the Wild Africa Trek that's available over at Animal Kingdom. I have also done the Keys to the Kingdom, which is a tour through the Magic Kingdom. I've actually done that one twice. And I've actually had different tour experiences both times I've done that because they have changed that. I have done the Dolphins in Depth tour, which is over at Epcot and the Living Seas, the Seas with Nemo and Friends. And I have done Behind the Seeds, which is also in Epcot in the Land Pavilion, which takes you through the greenhouse that you go through with Living with the Land. I've actually done that one many times, which I like to go back to that one at different times of the year because, again, the tour experience is different because you get different layouts of the greenhouse as they change it throughout the seasons. And then the ones that I have done that are no longer offered, Backstage Magic, which took you through backstage areas of Magic Kingdom, Epcot, and Hollywood Studios. And then I was able to do the Backstage Safari tour at Animal Kingdom, which took you into backstage areas of Animal Kingdom, into some of the corrals that they have the animals in, and some of the backstage areas that the cast members care for the animals. And then the most recent one that I did when I was in Disneyland in this past November, I was able to do Walt's Main Street Story Tour, which was a dream come true for any Disney person. I grew up fully immersed in the Disney World, and part of that tour is that you get to tour Walt's apartment. So I totally had a full like hallelujah moment where I had a little moment there with Walt. So that was absolutely wonderful. Yeah, so I've done a good amount of what is currently on offer. There's a few that I probably will never do, but my goal is to eventually do them all.
So the backstage or the behind the scenes tours are just so much fun. They are an extra expense, so and the cost will range anywhere from maybe like $20-$30. I think I saw up to they're a couple hundred, but you definitely get your money's worth on them. I've done 5 of them, and there's some overlap with ones we've done. I've done Keys to the Kingdom and the Backstage Magic. I also did one that was called Marceline to the Magic Kingdom, which basically goes through Walt's vision of the Magic Kingdom and why they have certain things at the Magic Kingdom that they have in these based on Walt's life, and specifically on the Main Street USA of that was modeled after his boyhood home of Marceline, Missouri, whenever he was growing up. It's similar to the one that you did in Disneyland with the Main Street story. I did not do that one, but I did an older version of that. It was called Walk in Walt's Footsteps, where we got to go into Walt's apartment, so this was made over 10 years ago that I did mine. And my digital camera, the memory card filled up while I was on the trip. And I went to buy another one, but it was an older camera. And they only sold ones that were bigger, that were too big to put in, like the memory did not were not compatible with the camera. So I was selectively deleting pictures throughout the day. And I had an iPod that I was ending up using for pictures, but this was again over 10 years ago, and the quality of the picture was not that great. I was so upset about it. But that just means I need to do it again.
Absolutely. And it's changed now where now they did not allow us to take our own photos in Walt's apartment, but they did have a PhotoPass photographer available, and they took photos of you that you didn't have to pay for the PhotoPass downloads. So I do have photos of myself standing in Walt's apartment, which is, very special photo for me.
Yeah, they didn't let us take pictures either, but we could hand our camera to one of their people to take our picture. So, although we definitely need the camera quality, because you take it at the window with the little lamp, but it's backlit with the light coming through the window. So you need good photography to get a good picture in there. I also did another one out in Disneyland. It was called Welcome to the Disneyland Resort Tour that just took you all over the resort. You got to go to California Adventure Park and Disneyland, and you got to see a bunch of stuff. And they were both really, really enjoyable. Funny thing is, whenever I did the Welcome to Disneyland Resort tour, I was out there for 5 days. So much longer than you actually need to see all of Disneyland, but I didn't care. I had a whole lot of fun, and I got to ride everything like 3 times. But I did that on like the 3rd or 4th day of my trip. So they're explaining stuff like, for most people who this is your first time walking in the park, like, oh yeah, I did that and I did that. So it was still fun. I had a blast.
Yeah, my travel partner and I purposely stayed an extra day at Disneyland just to do the walking in Walt's footsteps tour. So,
Yeah, we're gonna get into some of the details about these different tours beyond what Amanda said already with some of them. But yeah, I mentioned before that there are different prices. They are different lengths. So some of them are as short as an hour or two. Some of them, like the backstage magic one that we did, was 8 hours long. That it was an
mm,
all day event. But we hit all four parks and got to see even some extra things like where they grew the topiaries, like
mm,
the different bushes that are shaped like different people or things or whatever. And that was just really neat to see how they did that. They used all organic matter other than the wire frame.
yeah. And I thought it was really interesting because for our tour, they took us. So, a fun fact about me, my father is a professional Santa. Um, so they took us into the Christmas warehouse, and we thought that was the coolest thing ever because Christmas is year round in my house growing up. So it was just appropriate that we had to tour the Christmas warehouse. And I didn't realize just how big that, like, their Christmas people are year-round jobs because they are constantly working on the Christmas decor in the resorts.
Well, there's
So,
always updates or repairs. Repairs
yeah,
from last year, updates. Here we want to try something new. Let's put this thing here instead. Let's move the Christmas because they've put the Christmas trees in different locations at
yeah,
some of the parks at least. I know that at Hollywood Studios, it used to be out front in a little circular area. They have little plants there now or whatever else. And then they moved it, I think they moved it inside. Yeah, they have it inside now. So it's the different decorations, different themes, even though it's all Christmas and Disney, but there are different things that they do with it that's so amazing. And as they add new resorts and everything else, they just have to keep adding on.
yeah,
We got to go in there. We got to see some of the storage area where the parade floats are kept.
yes,
Now, a lot of that stuff, the backstage stuff, is off, but no pictures allowed. So
correct.
the only thing you're taking with you are the memories that you make. So pay close attention to everything and try to document as much as you can in your mind. But there are some areas where they do let you take pictures, which was pretty neat.
Mm. And then the other thing to keep in mind when you're doing tours is that because if you're going into any of the backstage areas, there are age restrictions. Is obviously because if you're going in backstage areas, you may not see characters in their full uniforms. So nobody wants to ruin the magic for somebody who's younger. I mean, it's kind of sad even as an adult that the magic gets ruined, but at least we're adults and we understand that, Mickey and Mickey's friends might be the same person.
Wait, you're breaking news for me here. First with this Santa, and for anyone younger listening, her dad was one of Santa's helpers. Okay,
Yeah,
so
Santa's
that's
helpers.
what she meant by
Yes,
we all
I
know
was
Santa.
one of Santa's elves. So yes,
Yeah,
I
Santa can't
happen to
always
know
be at
Santa.
every department store for you to sit on his lap, but he has his
Yes.
helpers. But you never know when he's going to be really there, so he makes his way around.
I have a
Uh,
direct line, so I can call him anytime.
so did my mom when we were growing up. So
I think every mom does.
uh, with other things with the tours is for the longer tours, they do provide lunch, and it will vary at the location. It will be at one of the restaurants, either in an amusement park or at one of the resorts. For one of them, we were at the Wilderness Lodge. Was it Whispering Canyon? There was a family style meal that we had there. And I thought it was pretty funny that our server, had this wonderful Southern accent, and her name tag said she was from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So
Well, I also learned a fun fact about the name tags is that sometimes they don't always have the correct information on their name tags on purpose. I learned that on a backstage tour once.
that's interesting. I did not hear that.
Yes.
No, this young lady was actually from Philadelphia. She was putting on the accent to play the part,
Yeah.
but it was funny talking to her.
Mm.
And for some of the tours that are less expensive, they will only cost you about 30, 40, $50. You do need theme park admission to get in there and to do
Yes.
those tours. Some of the more expensive ones that will cost you $200 or whatever it is, theme park admission is not required. Although you meet outside the park, you go through the parks and they show you everything, and then you end the tour outside the park. So if you do have park admission that day, you can go back in, you can enjoy things just like a regular guest. But keep that in mind, which it's a smart policy by Disney that if someone wants to pay more than the typical admission price for a park to come in and do a tour and then bail on it to enjoy the park, go right ahead. But they're not going to take that chance with a less expensive tour.
Right.
So let's start with going through some of the tours at Walt Disney World. We'll start with the Keys to the Kingdom, which again, but we've both done that.
Yeah.
They'll give you fun facts and trivia as you walk around the park, looking at like walking down Main Street, that the buildings are 3 stories tall. At least they seem that way, but they use forced perspective to they're only maybe a little more than 2 stories tall.
Yeah.
If you notice on all the windows, you have the names of famous, well, Disney legends, and at least at Walt Disney World, you have some of the fake property name or real
The
estate
fake
names
property owners, yes.
that they used to
So
buy up the
they
land
used to buy up the land that Walt Disney made up.
And for each of the names above the door, above the stores, the person has sort of a job. It has something to do with either something that they did with Disney or one of their hobbies. So Walt's dad, Elias Disney, is up there, and he's a contractor. And whenever they lived, one of Walt's dad's many jobs, he tried a bunch of things. Usually they were get rich quick schemes that did not work. But one thing that he was pretty successful with was as a construction worker or contractor. That he built several houses for people in Chicago, and that's how he made some money. It was funny. He started out building a house for their family, and then one guy that he knew was like, "Oh, that's a great house." So he sold it to him, and then started building another house for his family. One of the really neat things about the Keys to the Kingdom tour, and Amanda mentioned this before, is you get to go into the utilidors.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that Magic Kingdom is actually the second floor. So the utilidors are what they call the system that runs technically underground of the Magic Kingdom, which is really the main floor, the first floor of the Magic Kingdom. There's a series of tunnels underneath the entirety of the Magic Kingdom. And this was done intentionally because in Disneyland, Walt was not happy about the fact that when everybody came through to their jobs in the morning, there were people in costumes in lands that they did not belong to. So it took away from the magic. Like it took you out of the mindset of where you were. So they tried to correct that. So you come into work from a back entrance and you go through the tunnel underneath all of Magic Kingdom and you pop up in your land. So nobody should be seen technically in a land that doesn't match what they're wearing.
Yeah,
so I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, they're the utilidors. The utility corridors is
Yeah.
kind of like their Imagineering, the names that they like to combine and shorten. I think the main thing or the example that I heard cited was that Walt saw someone from Frontierland, so he dressed like a cowboy, walking through Tomorrowland. And
yes, that's the example that they use.
And it's not just so that was one of the main reasons why they did the utilidors. It also serves as another purpose of just efficiency and hiding some of the other behind the scenes and backstage tasks that need to be done. So, for example, and it wasn't just in the beginning of the day, it was also whenever someone would end their shift or if they were going on their break or whatever else the situation was, and to avoid having to walk all the way around the perimeter of the park, which would be can be a long trek.
Long walk, lots of steps.
Yeah, much more quickly. But they can also do this that say in the Christmas store in Liberty Square, they are running low on some of the snow globes. Instead of having a cart with snow globes being pushed through the park to deliver it, which again kind of ruins the magic, they can go underground to where the basement, I guess, of the store, and they can just take them right up. And so that's really, really nice. It is logistical um, purposes as well of delivering merchandise or even taking out garbage. That they have the vacuums that the garbage can come down.
Yeah, they
Uh,
actually have a very interesting garbage system, where they have it throughout the entirety of the Magic Kingdom, where it's like a legitimate vacuum system that they can actually pull it into the vacuum system and put it into their garbage system.
yeah, I've heard stories
Kind of
of
gross.
yeah, although it's better than having to wheel it around up top because
Yes.
whenever I was in high school and college working jobs at retail locations and fast food places, I had to empty garbage and not the most pleasant job. So especially whenever it's hot in the summer in
Oh,
Florida. Oh man. So, but getting to walk through the utilidors, it's really interesting that they have kind of road signs it's different colored things and arrows, so you know where you're at to orient yourself under the actual park. So they'll show you where Frontierland is, and here's Main Street USA, and that's pretty cool to see how people get around down there.
it is. It's very interesting.
And watch your feet too, because they have a lot of little, we call them like utility golf carts or whatever to drive things around, little 4x4s that I believe they're all electric too, since you're underground, kind of an enclosed area. So
I think
one
they are, yes.
to cut out the exhaust and the noise. But there were several times that whenever you go in, they tell you, okay, whenever I say move to the side, you need to move to the side because people are working here. We have to keep things going. And so a couple times you on the tour, all right, against the wall, and here comes one of their little carts coming through. One of
Yeah.
the other neat things is, and you go backstage, well, wherever these are, is that whenever you're going to one of these areas, there is a line painted on the ground. And if you take the train around Magic Kingdom or around Disneyland, it's there too. That especially in Magic Kingdom, there's a little road that comes through around Adventureland, Frontierland, where they come together. It's where the parade comes through, and you'll see a little line painted on the ground. That is the line of where people in the park could see you. And that once you are past that line, it's safe to not be in character. But once you go across that line towards the park, you have to be in character because people can see you.
Yes, you have to be on stage, is what they call it. So
Yep.
everything in Disney World and Disneyland, they consider it like, I mean, I grew up doing theater, so for me, it's theater talk. It's everything is um, on stage or off stage. So they still use that terminology. So you're on stage, you're in front of the guests who can see you, and you have to act as if you are on stage.
And that's how Walt perceived Disneyland and Walt Disney World later on, since he wasn't around for it, but that's how we saw it. This is a movie. This is a play. This is theater. It's live theater that you were put into this environment, and here's the scenes that are presented. And he actually used that, and they still use some of that terminology. That as
Mm.
you're walking down Main Street, like on Main Street USA, with the names that are all up on the buildings, they saw that as this is the credits. Oh, they're running through. These are the people who built it. Like just like at the end of a movie, or earlier, years ago. Then the beginning of the movie, they had all the credits of here are the people who helped create this, which I
And
think
then
is
if
a
you
real
think
nice
about it, when
analogy.
you're walking under the train station at Walt, like at Magic Kingdom, you have all of the posters of the attractions. So that's like your features, like coming soon. This is what you have to look forward to in the movie. Um, and then both in Disneyland and in Walt Disney World, as you walk in before you hit Main Street, it's the ground, if you look down at it, is actually red. It's a red carpet.
And walking through the tunnels, he wanted to get into where Main Street is from the outside. He wanted it to be like a reveal, like the curtain is being pulled up at the beginning of a play. So the analogies in the way they design things to do this, it's really amazing, and it is so it fits so perfectly that it could not be done any other way.
Right.
If it was done another way, it would not work as well.
Correct. Yeah. And that was what Disney was about. I mean, he made movies and cartoons before he made a theme park. And a lot of people forget that he was in that entertainment industry. Like when Disneyland was built, there was nothing like it before. It had never been done before. So it was a completely novel idea.
Yeah, in the past they had amusement parks that were collections of rides that you went on to be thrilled and hopefully not killed with special, lack of safety features then. But this was the first theme park that had a theme to it. And so yeah, it's truly unique, or at least at the time, it was novel. It was brand new. And to go back on what Amanda said about the utilidors and how Magic Kingdom was actually built on the second level, they were going to dig a basement for it and just put everything underground, literally underground. But whenever being Florida, the water table was very shallow. They dug the first hole when they first started doing it. The next day they came back and it was filled with water. Like, okay, this is not going to work. So as you start walking from the Seven Seas Lagoon, if you take the ferry boat, or if you get off at the buses, you will get a gradual incline as you work your way towards the Magic Kingdom. So that is where you're going up to the second floor of this structure, which that's just so amazing that all those things are built on a second level, that there's things underneath it that were built and how it raises, and the civil engineering for that to be able to support all that weight and all those people and everything. It's
Yeah,
just
that's
amazing.
incredible.
Last comment that I have for the keys to the kingdom is that you also get to ride one of the attractions that they'll take you on, and we get to actually go in and see. I think it was for this one that we got to go into the Haunted Mansion and see how they did some of the special effects.
Yeah,
And
and part
again,
of the tour, what I liked is they had everybody got an earpiece. So when the tour guide was speaking, I had female tour guides. She was speaking into a microphone, so you were able to hear, which we also did on one of my tours was the Haunted Mansion. So you were all in different ride vehicles, but you could still hear the narrative as she was speaking. So that's how they, get basically talk right into your ear. So, and I'm a big Haunted Mansion fan. Like that's my favorite ride ever. I could wax poetic about the lore of the Haunted Mansion and tell you all the secrets of the history, but that's for another podcast.
we'll have you back on. I
Right.
do want to have a podcast where we get into the different attractions at each park.
And
And
then there's histories behind it. And that's another fascinating facet of Disney is everything has a background history that they just created. They just made up a story to go along with their attractions.
and like Yale Gracie's outside, the architecture with the chess pieces on the top.
Yes.
It's just so neat.
And how it's,
Yeah,
if you've noticed, if you ever actually look at it, the chess pieces are in a stalemate.
that's also in um parts of the Caribbean. In the queue,
That
there
they're
are
playing
two
chess and it's at a
skeletons.
stalemate.
It's the
Yeah.
stalemate as well. Yeah, which is a great. That level of detail is just that's what makes Disney Disney.
Yes.
Neat thing about the what Amanda said about the microphone. So the tour guide doesn't have to yell, and especially in places where it's noisy and Walt Disney World, you can hear them all the time. And I've mostly had female tour guides. There was one that had a guy do it, but so you can actually hear them, especially if you're in the back and they're in the front, and you can hear even the side conversations they have with other people, and they're telling you little tidbits that are not part of the tour script.
Yes.
And it's just neat things that they've noticed or that they've learned, or whenever I was in Disneyland and did the tour, I don't know, I don't think it was the lady who actually did the tour, but it was one of the people that we met along the way, that she was an original cast member. From 1955, she was
Oh
an
my
original
God.
cast member. And
Those are the
so,
people you want to talk to when you go on vacation, right?
yeah, and this was 2013. So she had worked there for 60 years
Oh my
almost.
gosh.
And what she said made sense about the way, so what Walt Disney World and Disneyland, you are treated fabulously by cast members. At least I've always been treated very well. I've heard some other people who say they're not, but I've never experienced a bad situation. That I've been treated great in Walt Disney World. I was treated better at Disneyland.
Oh,
And
100%. I agree.
what the lady said made a lot of sense for this, is that Walt Disney walked in Disneyland. So it is held to a higher reverence of, we need to uphold Walt Disney's standard because he was actually here. And so, and when you think of that, I mean, like going to his apartment, Walt Disney slept there. He was on, which was interesting in the apartments. We can get to that a little bit later on about some of the details of how it's set up. Um, but that was, just some fun stuff that you learn along the in the tours. But with the Magic or the Haunted Mansion, again, they have a line on the ground where if you step past that line, people on who are going through the attraction could possibly potentially see you. So you have to stay behind that.
Yes. And then we actually got to go in the back entrance. I don't know if they took you in the back entrance when you went.
We did not have to wait in line, right?
Yeah, they took you through the servants' quarters, and even the back entrance is themed. So they were explaining like even this areas of the rides that the public does not usually see, those areas are themed. So you still are in the Disney bubble even when you're not in a public area, which is fascinating to me. Um, but I did the Haunted Mansion on one tour, and then the other tour that I did, we went on the Jungle Cruise, which was really interesting to learn a lot of the backstage like fun facts about the Jungle Cruise.
And the
So,
Jungle Cruise is my favorite attraction.
oh, it was so cool.
Yeah, so we got a special tour that we went on it, and rather than getting the normal spiel that we get that a normal tourist would get or a normal guest would get with the Jungle Cruise, we got some other things, and we slowed down in different spots. Hey, look at this. Here's this neat little fact. And we got in the tunnel that you go through. They actually turned lights on in there so we could see some of the details more clearly. We got to hear neat little things. That was just so much fun. Now, when done correctly, the Jungle Cruise is the best. I've had some not so great skippers, and it kind
Yeah,
of
you have to be the special kind of person to be a Jungle Cruise skipper. It's
that
there's certain things in Disney World, like it's the same thing as being like a Haunted Mansion host or a host on the Tower of Terror. You have to have a special kind of ability to improv in order to host those rides. You absolutely have to have that personality.
absolutely. And my retirement plan is going to be a Jungle Cruise skipper. That is what I want to do whenever I decide, okay, I'm gonna take it easy in life. I'm gonna move to Florida, and that is my job.
I think it
So,
would work for you.
so I have that dad humor type thing
Yeah.
down. It's perfect. So, any other comments on the keys to the kingdom?
Um, no, I think we covered most of the keys to the kingdom.
All right, the one you said you've done several times that I want to do is the behind the scenes at the
Yeah.
Living with the Land in Epcot.
Behind the Scenes, I think, is my favorite tour, even though it's the like shortest tour. It's only about an hour and a half long. But I have done it multiple times on purpose because it's done in the land greenhouse. And a lot of it, so a lot of background about me. When we were growing up, my mother had this thing that we had to learn something on every vacation. She tried very hard to instill education into us when we were growing up. So this was one of the tours that you could do, and there's no age restriction on behind the scenes, which is a lot of the times you're getting families. So it's always really cute to see the little kids, because one of the things that they do on this is you release ladybugs into the greenhouse, and they talk about like pest control and what ladybugs do for pest control. But it's just it makes me laugh every time I see the little kids release the ladybugs out of the boxes. It's just so funny. But I love doing it too. But what's cool about the greenhouse in the land, if you've ever been to, like, we go to Disney like 3 or 4 times a year and have my whole life, the greenhouse in the land changes with the seasons. So like during Christmas time, they have all the lights going, and during the Flower and Garden Festival, they try to put different displays and like smaller topiaries throughout. And then at different times of the year, they're growing different things in the land greenhouse. And I actually have gotten different tips and little things from different tours. So it's interesting that every time I go on a tour, I learn something new. Um,
Your mom would be proud.
yeah, right? We actually did with my mom one year. My mom would try, she would like alternate a Disney trip with like, Boston or Philadelphia or Washington, D.C., or like the educational type of, trips. And finally, we convinced her that we could learn different languages at all of the World Showcase pavilions and Epcot. So it was educational to go to Disney. So she kind of gave up and just let us go to Disney all the time. So this was one of the like, hey, mom, we could do this tour and learn about plants. And we really do learn things, at Disney on these tours. But it's really cool because they practice hydroponics. So they grow plants in water, and they practice vertical gardening. So they have plants, instead of gardening, on a flat piece of land, they have them growing up. So they can grow more plants in little space. And one thing that I learned that I thought was really cool, so in the Garden Grill, which is the restaurant in the Land Pavilion, all of the vegetables and salad and such that you eat, all of those are grown in the greenhouse in the land.
And that's the definition of fresh food.
It's literally fresh. Like they pick it downstairs in the greenhouse and bring it upstairs and serve it to you. You can't get any fresher than that. And they actually said that they can sustain like other restaurants within the Epcot resort area at times, depending on how much they grow. Which if you look through, like when you're going through the land, living with the land ride, you wouldn't think that they have that much space, but they do. So it's kind of cool because you get to walk around back in the greenhouse, and they show you like all the different plants, and they teach you like, because they can make tomatoes Mickey shaped and stuff, and the pumpkins Mickey shaped, and they actually show you how they do that, which is really cool. So it's really neat.
Even some of the fish, they have the fish farms in the Living Land as well, and the fish are served at the restaurants as well.
Yes. The fish are actually served at the Coral Reef restaurant in the Living Seas with Nemo and Friends restaurant as well.
Which is basically right next door to the Land Pavilion.
Yeah. So, and I recommend that to like anybody who's done Disney a few times and is looking for something kind of new to do, but not super expensive. I think it was $30 the last time I did it. And it's not a huge time. It doesn't take a lot of time because it's only an hour and a half. So it's quick to add it into your day. A lot of the times you don't need prior reservations. A lot of, you can get walk-up reservations easy because they do the tours throughout the day. So they don't all get booked up because they do so many in one day. So it's pretty convenient too.
And that's a nice strategic thing that if you're in Epcot and it's getting towards the middle of the day, and if you're there during a more busy time of the year where the attraction lines are getting longer, or if you plan this out, okay, middle of the day, we're gonna take a break. It's our last day in the parks, or second time we've been in Epcot on this trip. Middle of the day, it gets kind of hot and busy. let's take an indoor air conditioned break where we don't have to wait in line and we get to do something else and it's different. That's a nice way to break up your vacation a bit with something unique to try and, get your second wind and re-energize yourself.
Yeah. It's again, it's inside, it's air conditioned, you're in the greenhouse. And I've even been in the greenhouse on a tour like during the thunderstorm. So that's really cool too. You just get all these different experiences, which is fascinating to me. It's fun, you know.
Well, speaking of Epcot, there are a couple other ones, and we said at the Seas with Nemo and Friends, that's where we're gonna head next. That there
Yes.
are two of them there. That there's Dolphins in Depth, which that's the one you did, correct?
Yes.
And then there's also Dive Quest. Now, Dive Quest does require you to be scuba certified. If
Yes.
you not do it there, you have to have documentation and you have to have proof of your last dives and everything. You have to be up to date and current. That is something I would love to do. Actually, this summer, my wife is from Indonesia, and so we're going to go to Indonesia to see her family. That she's actually almost there as we speak. She's on her trip. Actually, by the time this airs, we'll probably be over there too.
Yeah.
That the one island that we're going to go to, they have snorkeling, but they also have scuba diving. That my sister-in-law really wants to do it, and so I'm going to join her and learn to scuba dive. So I'm
That'll be
excited.
awesome. Yeah. My father's always wanted to do it because my father's scuba certified and just hasn't done it yet. But my parents live in Florida, so it'll happen sooner or later. Um, but Dolphins in Depth was really cool. And it's nice because you don't have to know how to swim. So they have you on like a dock that's under the water. So you're only up to your waist in the water. And they bring the dolphins in. So it's kind of, you're not in the water the whole time. Part of it is that you're in the classroom and they talk to you about like the dolphins nutrition and how they do the training program because the dolphins, I mean, they're wild animals, but a lot of the animal behavior training they do is like trying to get them so that they have a calm vet visit or enrichment. So like a lot what you're doing during the in the water, probably 45 minutes to an hour out of the 3.5 to 4 hour tour, you're doing enrichment with them. So it's not guaranteed that you're going to have an interaction with a dolphin because they may decide that day that they're just not interested. So, I mean, we got lucky. We had two dolphins that wanted to play. They are very playful creatures. So you're usually going to get an interaction with them because they're curious and they're like, "Ooh, people, cool, let's play." Um, so I mean, you're not going to get the experience where you're riding on the back of a dolphin, but they do like you they'll have you do their enrichment with them and like how they feed them and stuff. So it's really interesting. And I had a phase at that point in my life where I was obsessed with dolphins. So that was the appropriate tour for me. That was actually my 16th birthday tour because I was 16 and able to actually go on backstage tours that, had an age restriction. So that was the one I picked. Um,
Nice.
but that was a lot of fun. So
I've never done that. That would be really neat. I have had guests who were going on to Florida that they did Discovery Cove, which is another
mm,
area where you can go and swim with animals and dolphins and otters and whatever else. And they had a fabulous, fabulous time doing that. So those interactions are a lot of fun.
yeah, Disney is more about the education behind it, which is what I appreciate. I mean, again, back to my mother making us learn
Mhm.
things as we grow up. Like I've now as an adult, I've learned to appreciate it because you get that education with it. When you go to Disney, you really like they're really all about conservation and enrichment, and it really shows in their tours, especially with the animal encounters.
And that even stems back to Walt Disney with his True Life Adventure series back in the 50s, with Seal Island and, getting video of different animals in their natural habitats.
Yeah. And especially like, a lot of the National Geographic stuff that Disney pairs with a lot
Mhm.
now. It comes out in their tours because they really make a point to make it about the animal and not about the human having the interaction.
Mhm.
So
It's learning about what the animal does in their everyday life, and then now you get to interact with them. And
yeah.
speaking of which, Animal Kingdom has 5 different tours that you can do. There's Caring for Giants, which lets you go see how they take care of the elephants. There's Up Close with Rhinos, which for some reason you get to meet crocodiles, and I don't get no, I'm kidding. You get to get to run. So you're talking about some very, very large animals that you get to get fairly close to and see how they get taken care of at in the parks, which I've been on the Kilimanjaro Safari a couple times, and we've one time there was a white rhinoceros which was just walking right next to the truck for a while, that he was checking us out to see what we were doing. And
I've had a
I'm
few
just
Kilimanjaro safaris where we've had giraffic jams.
oh yeah.
Those are always fun.
There's also Savor the Savannah, which is more of a food-based tour. There's Starlight Safari, which is a nighttime one that is at the Animal Kingdom Lodge. So you get to put on your pajamas and okay, yeah, don't wear pajamas on the when you're out there. But yeah, it's nighttime one. You can see them at night, where a lot of the animals are more nocturnal, so they're more active. It's cooler, that just naturally out. So you get to see do things that you're not used to seeing. I believe you get the night vision goggles for that
Yes,
too,
you do
which
get the
that
night vision goggles, which is it allows you to see them a lot more clearer, which is nice.
just to be able to wear the night vision goggles. I mean, ever since I saw Jurassic Park when I was younger, I just want to have a pair of those. It looks so neat.
Right?
But then the one you did was the Wild Africa trek, correct?
Yes. The Wild Africa trek has to be, I mean, I love Animal Kingdom. It's my favorite park, hands down. I could spend days at Animal Kingdom and not get bored. And Wild Africa Trek is an incredible tour. It gives you the opportunity to really get up close and personal with a lot of the animals. Um, and it gives you a little bit of a thrill too. So the first part is you're going through, they hook you up to a harness and you get to get close to the hippo enclosure. And I have a special bond with one of the hippos. So my 4.5-year-old is Henry, and one of the hippos at Animal Kingdom is Henry. So he's my favorite hippo. Um, so they hook you in to this like thing so that you can lean over the enclosure to kind of get a little closer to watch the hippos. And then they feed the hippos while you're there. So they get, you can watch them feed the hippos. I don't think anybody's ever fallen in. Hopefully not. So after that, then they hook you up into almost like a zip line kind of
Mm-hmm.
piece, and you get to walk over these bridges. So the first bridge you go is actually across the hippo enclosure. So mind you, you're going over the enclosures. So when you're on Kilimanjaro safaris, these are the enclosures that you're driving past. So you're literally like, as you're seeing people, like they're watching you climb these bridges as they're driving past on the safaris. So it's a little intimidating. You're like, please don't, I'm not going to slip. This is going to be fun. I mean, there's nets in case you do fall and you're attached to this, like, all these harnesses and ropes and things. So I don't think you go very far if you did fall, but it would be really embarrassing because everybody on those Jeeps would see you. But you get to go over the hippo enclosure. And then the next one they hook you up with is over the crocodile enclosure. So you're only about 100 feet up. And those crocodiles, you're getting pretty close views of those crocodiles. They're a little intimidating when you're that close, but it's very cool. And then you get to walk through the paths, like the backstage paths through like next to a ton of the enclosures in that part of the savannah. And then they put you in a Jeep and you get to take so it's part of the trails that you're on during Kilimanjaro safaris. But as you're going on the trails, they're taking offshoot trails to like other views of the savannah that you don't get to see on the main safari. And as they're going through, they're telling you all these little tidbits about, how they built the savannah and certain fail safes that they have so that the animals don't mix if they're not supposed to, or why certain animals are put together. So like you wouldn't think that like the lions should be together with certain animals. They're not. But if you're riding Kilimanjaro safaris, it looks like they have access to the zebras. They don't. Um, but they use like I learned on that tour, which I thought was really cool, that every single animal in Animal Kingdom, when they bring them back to their stables at night, every single animal in Animal Kingdom has a different sound that they are trained to hear, and that is the sound that brings them back to their stable. And obviously there's a crazy system that only opens certain areas to let them back at a time. But I just thought that was really cool that they have all of these animals trained to their own sound. But then you go to a pavilion they have set up in the middle of the savannah, and you have all these views of these animals, of like the elephant is in one area and the giraffes are in another and the zebras are over here in another, and that's where they serve you lunch. Meanwhile, the entire time you have, as part of what you paid for your tour fare, is you have PhotoPass photographers. Your tour guides are PhotoPass photographers as well. They're taking photos of you through this whole time. So you're getting the files of the photos after your tour is over of you doing all these crazy things, like hanging over the hippos and walking across these bridges. So that is always a cool thing to see, like, hey, look at what I did, but that is really cool because you get some incredible views of areas of the savannah that you would never get on the regular Kilimanjaro safaris ride. And you're getting all of these bits of information because the cast members that are taking you on the tour are actual animal experts. So you're not just getting a regular cast member who worked like food service, you're getting an educated person who's giving you all of these tips about all of the animals you're experiencing. So I learned things about the giraffes, like they have two giraffes that don't play nice together, so they can't have them out on the same day, things like that. I had a giraffe this close to me because we went through the giraffes and he was curious and decided to stick his head in the Jeep. So that was fun. I also learned that they bite. So didn't know that.
And they have black tongues.
And they have black tongues, yes.
And just
and
so you
I
know,
also
Amanda held her fist up to her face about 6 inches away.
The
How close the
giraffe literally
got.
stuck his head in between me and the person sitting next to me in the Jeep. Like, hello, how are you today? No, please don't come that close to me. Because apparently they bite. So as this giraffe is sticking his head in the Jeep, the cast member is like, do not touch the giraffe. Do not move, do not breathe, do not blink. And we're like, oh, this is lovely. Like, this is just what I had on my list today, was to get bitten by a giraffe. Like, how do you explain that to your doctor when you get home? Like, I got bit by a giraffe today. So interesting. Yes, their tongues are black. And I also learned about giraffes is that their pattern of spots is like a fingerprint. So every giraffe has a different pattern of spots. You learn a lot of things on these tours. I have learned so much about Disney and the ones at Animal Kingdom. You learn all about every animal that you're experiencing. So I haven't done the Caring for Giants or the Up Close with Rhinos, but the people that I know who have done them say that there's no question unanswered about those animals. Like, these cast members know everything about the animals that they are giving you the experience with. So if you're an animal lover, like an elephant lover or a rhino lover or a giraffe lover, like, these are the experiences that you want to have while you're at Animal Kingdom.
And so whenever you have a giraffe that gets near you, you have to pretend like it's a T-Rex and freeze. So
Yes.
although that doesn't work with T-Rexes really, so
No.
Part kind of fudged that. I have not done that one, but whenever I did the backstage magic one, they we got to go on a specialized Kilimanjaro safari. It was just us, and they slowed down and told us a few of these other little tidbits. Like whenever you do see the lions, that if you look, they're up kind of on a rock, but if you can kind of get the right angle, there's a big cement moat there. There's a big chasm, gorge, whatever you want to call it, that the lion can't leap over and can't get to the other animals, even though it looks like it's real close. Again, the forced
Yes.
perspective Disney uses. And as you go through the Kilimanjaro Safari, you go over these like springs, these metal springs every once in a while that for whatever reason, the hoofed animals do not like to walk over them. That it's something that it just messes with them. So they have those little things there that it's not a barrier that theoretically the animals could just walk right through, but because of what's on the ground, they will not do it. And so you can very easily drive over, and it makes it more of a natural, open environment without having to worry about the animals intermingling, which is really neat.
Yeah.
Getting away from that to our last tour at Walt Disney World is the Wilderness Back Trail Adventure, which is a Segway tour around Fort Wilderness Lodge, or excuse me, the Fort Wilderness Resort, the campground.
Yeah. So I have not done that one, but it looks really fun.
You get to ride Segways all day, sure, yeah. Although the beginning part of that tour, they do teach you how to ride the Segway, so there is
that's
that
probably an
education.
important part of the tour for those of us who don't exactly know how to ride segways. It would probably be important.
Yeah, there's a river. So where I live, Morgantown, West Virginia, the Monongahela River runs right through it, and there's a little river trail. And I used to walk along there all the time. And there was a lady that was on a Segway that would always ride it back and forth. I always want to stop her, like, can I try that?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's neat with the back trail one at Fort Wilderness that you get away from Disney. You get to see like their campground area and some of the things they do there. The interesting thing that they take the crushed like glass bottles or broken glass, and they crush it up and they use it sort of as a sand to cover the for some of the plant, like as a mulch type thing for some of the plants, and they also cover some of the trails with it. It's when it's ground up into that fine of a powder, you're not worried about cutting yourself, but it's softer on the horse's hooves that do the little trails.
Yes, because they also do the carriage rides through Fort Wilderness. So,
but some of the neat things that you'll learn, like going through Fort Wilderness and the things they do there.
Yeah, I've done the carriage rides through Fort Wilderness, which was actually a lot of fun. We did it at Halloween time. Okay. I didn't realize until that trip, this was before I was a travel agent, that the people who stay at Fort Wilderness decorate for Halloween and Christmas like really crazy. So my best friend that I went with, we went with my now mother-in-law and her mother, who are best friends. That's how she and I met. And they wanted to go on the carriage ride because it was something we never had done when we all had been to Disney so many times. And we learned real fast. The guy was like, you want to go around twice? We're like, okay. So we went around twice because we could see all the Halloween decorations. These people decorate they stay for months when they stay in the sites for Halloween and Christmas. And the decorations, and they decorate their golf carts because Fort Wilderness rents out golf carts to some of the campsites. They have golf cart parades that they decorate the golf carts and have and organize parades through the resort. It's the coolest thing ever.
So we usually go down in December. So like not from like the 15th through the 22nd ish, that general area, the teens of December. So we don't want to be there over Christmas because that gets a little bit too chaotic and crazy. But before then, it's not quite so bad. You still get all the decorations, everything. I'm a Disney Vacation Club member, so DVC, and the DVC members also decorate their rooms. They did, especially for at the boardwalk. in some of the rooms that face the actual boardwalk, you'll see Christmas lights on some of the balconies there.
Yeah.
And that's one of the ones that's more visible that you might see if you're just out and about, especially if you're taking like the boat ride. The friendships between Epcot and Hollywood Studios, or just going over there for a bite to eat or something along those lines, or just to see the entertainment. You'll get to see some of those, but you'll see it at some of the other resorts too. We typically stay at either Saratoga Springs or Old Key West, and you'll see a lot more there. That people have doors decorated and back balconies and stuff like that.
Yeah, we usually go like the first week of December because my mother's birthday is December
Yeah.
1st. So we'll be there this year for that week as well. And my husband's birthday is December 3rd. He's not happy about spending his birthday at Disney, so we're just going to make it even more fun for him this year. Um, and we've already started planning like how to decorate our window for Christmas. So, and we're only going to be staying at Pop Century, but we're still decorating our window for Christmas.
Awesome. Switching over to Disneyland, and speaking of Christmas, they have the Holiday Time at Disneyland Resort guided tour. That I thought they used to have one of these at Walt Disney World as well.
They used to. I don't
Yeah, okay.
know that they brought it back.
Yeah, I
I'm
didn't see it
interested
listed,
to see if they bring it back this year because they might.
but
And
they'll
if they
take
do,
you.
I will be doing it. So I'll let you know.
Yeah, they take you through and show you how they do the decorations and what the theme of this decoration, and this decoration is here because of this, and this one's here because of that, and this represents this, and they get into the meaning behind all the decorations, which that if you are a big fan of Christmas time and decorating that, and of course Amanda, for some reason likes Christmas a whole lot. I don't know, but I think it
Yeah.
had something to do with that.
Yeah. Christmas for us usually starts in August. So, well, when you're one of Santa's helpers, it's usually year round, actually. But we're big Christmas people.
Well, you're a little bit behind Walmart because I think they start bringing things out in July.
Yeah.
So that was like a lot of fun. There's also the Cultivating the Magic guided tour, which shows you how they do all of the topiaries and the different floral displays, especially the big Mickey out front whenever you're walking into their Disneyland park. And it's especially for Disneyland, but Magic Kingdom does the same thing.
Mm.
They change that throughout the year.
And then there's a lot of plants. I haven't taken the tour, but I also know Disneyland plants have their own cult following. There is a whole thing about the specific plants in what areas of Disneyland. There's a significance based on like what rides they're next to and what characters they signify. It's a thing.
So if you're looking for decorating ideas for around your garden at home or your backyard, go there, and then you can theme
I
it
have
towards
Disneyland roses in my garden, yes.
we've already talked about Walt's Main Street Story Tour, which again, uh, it's fabulous. Takes you through the history of Main Street and why things are the way they are, and you get to see Walt's apartment, which that is worth the price of the tour in and of itself. Which the inside the apartment, it is still decorated as it was when Walt Disney was alive.
Yeah, I'm not sure when you did it, but I just did it in November and they said that they were starting to, from what it was, they're restoring it now to even closer to what it was like in Walt's time. And a lot of the pieces that they had put in there, they had brought back like from the family archives. So when we were there, they had just brought back the tea set that they had used to serve or drink set. I'm not sure that he was a tea drinker, but they had like the china set that they used when they had family over. They had just brought that back from the Disney archives for, on display. They had his grilled cheese press that
Yeah,
he
yeah,
used,
I saw that. That was neat.
right? And it was interesting, like, because the history, even if you're not a Walt Disney fan, if you're a history person in like the 50s, the pieces that they have in that room from the 50s and the condition that they are in is pretty incredible too, because a lot of the pieces, they said that most of the pieces that are in there aren't like Disney's pieces per se, but they are pieces that are original from that time. So like a lot of the decorative things are not Disney's pieces because they allow you to sit on the couches now. So they're not really the couches that Disney sat on, but they're still couches from that time period so that it matches the rest of the decor.
Yeah, in the little like kitchen area, they actually talk about, oh yeah, well, Lily Disney, Walt's wife wanted this, so she bought this little thing here because she wanted to eat this. And Walt was notoriously a, you know, beans and weenies guy that he would walk around with crackers and nuts in his pocket to snack on, and he had a very middle class appetite.
Yeah.
That's what he ate, regular stuff. That he liked stews and just basic things. That he was not very fancy with his food taste. So in his kitchen, he had basic stuff to make basic food.
Yeah.
Interesting, I saw that I thought was the couches that they had were converted into beds, and that they were separated. That there were two of them on either side of the room.
Yes.
It was like the Ozzy and Harriet style beds.
It was very old fashioned that they slept separately.
Although I guess it was a safe space saving thing and one of the efficiency, and that was mainly for Walt's apartment when he was just staying overnight. I'm not sure how often Lily stayed there the whole time either. But if you go into the fire station below and you go to the fire pole, Walt used to take that and just slide down in the morning.
Yes.
And there's a story of one time that Walt and Lily and whoever else are sitting in the apartment, and I've heard different stories of it was a kid or like he was in his up to his early 20s, whatever. But someone shimmied up the pole, pokes his head through the hole, and sees Walt there, like, oh, hi. So
Yes.
they have that closed off now.
Yeah, I've heard that.
But you can see if you go into look up at the pole from the fire station below, you can see where it is. They have a wooden covering on over it now, which I guess is also a safety thing now that you don't want someone to fall through that hole if they're 20.
Well, yes.
And I imagine Walt's grandkids too. But if you're standing outside and looking at the fire station on the left, there's a bit of a level area, and that's a little patio that they could go out on.
Yeah,
Did
and
you
part of our
walk
tour,
over
they
there?
allowed us out on the patio and they actually provided snacks. So we got our own personalized cookies, which I thought was really cute. It was a cute little thing, you know?
Mhm. The last of the tours for Disneyland we're going to talk about is the Disneyland Railroad Guided Tour, where you get to ride on the presidential car on the Lily Bell. They used to have one in Walt Disney World that you could go start like at 7:30 in the morning. It was pretty early that you had to be there. Maybe even a little bit earlier than that. Did you got to see them start up the trains in the morning? I don't
Yes.
think this tour does that, but that is one that I wish I could have gone on. I'm not a huge train buff. My uncle is really into that, and we've gone on some scenic, old time scenic train tours with them. There's one about 2 hours from where I live. It's in Elkins, West Virginia. That they have a couple of different old restored trains, and I know another guy who lives out in Eastern Pennsylvania. That is huge train buffs. That he just the other day on social media was posting pictures of how he went on another one of them. So
My husband is a trolley fan, so we are
okay,
members of the Trolley Museum here in Connecticut. So he would have liked that tour, I think, but we never got there in time to do it, you know? So I wish they would bring that back too. That would have been a really cool tour.
but still the railroad one of getting in the presidential car and getting to go around and tell you tidbits about the railroad and about the park as you're going around doing the Grand Circle tour. That would be fun.
Yeah, that would
So,
be a lot of fun to do.
but if you would like to take some of these tours or just make a visit to Walt Disney World or Disneyland, let us know. We can definitely plan that in all of its glorious details. And again, as you've seen, Amanda and I have been there, done that with many of the tours. So if that is something you want to do, that even if you are one of the people who goes to Walt Disney World or Disneyland several times a year, and oh, I've been there, I've done that, I know how to do my Disney vacation, travel advisors can still help because whenever dining opens at 6 o'clock in the morning, we're the ones who can get up and do that for you. So you can sleep in a little bit. We can, if you realize, oh, I know exactly where I want to stay and exactly where I want, let us know. And then we can just handle it for you. So you don't have to wait on hold or have to worry about going online and booking that. You just give us the information and we can take care of all that information, all the details for you.
Exactly. We are not there to tell you how to vacation. We're just there to make sure that your vacation is the best vacation it can be.
And to make it easier for you, which if it's the best vacation, it's going to be an easy one, right?
Well, obviously.
So, Amanda, do you have a travel tip to share?
I do. So my favorite travel tip that I give to all of my clients is to always get travel insurance. You might not always think that you need travel insurance because you don't think that you're going to cancel your vacation or that something bad is going to happen. But you don't have car insurance because you are intending to get into a car accident. So, same concept goes for travel insurance. I personally have had to use travel insurance more than once. And I personally have been in a situation where I didn't get travel insurance and should have and lost out on a lot of money. So, the trip tip that I always give is get travel insurance.
And things happen. Just last summer, I was about going to go to a conference. It was in end of July in Austin, Texas, which I've done conferences in Boston in February. We need to work on this to make it work out a little bit better. But the Friday, so I was going to go down on Monday for this conference. On Friday, I tore the cartilage in my knee. So I tore the meniscus. That, yeah, I stepped wrong. It was actually re-aggravation of an earlier injury that I stepped wrong over my little girl's bike in our garage trying to get around something, and it twisted. And I could make the trip, but I was partially had a knee immobilizer on that could bend only a little bit, and I hobbled through the airport. But it was up until like Sunday evening that I was not sure if I was going on that trip. So
Yeah, I had it recently when I very first became a travel agent. I made the mistake of not getting travel insurance. My best friend and I planned a trip down to Disney World for my birthday. And 2 days before the trip, we both got COVID. So, and we had rented points through DVC. So, if you rent points through DVC and you cancel, you lose all that money. So, we lost all that money and there was no way to get it back or get reimbursed because we didn't have travel insurance. So, didn't work out so well for us, but we ended up rescheduling to August for her birthday. So, it worked out. We still got to go, but you know, learn my lesson. So I share that with every single one of my clients. Always get travel insurance.
we had a similar situation. This was during the pandemic as well, that we were going to go see my wife's family in Indonesia, and you had to have your COVID test in order to travel back then. And so we weren't sure if we were going to get the um, regular test back in time. So we did a rapid test. My rapid test came back positive. But then later that day, we got the regular test that came back negative. So but we had canceled all of our stuff, then got the one, oh no, that was a false positive. You can really travel. Rebooked everything. $600 later, we
Oof.
went on the trip, but it was $600 later. So yeah. Also, this is not my travel tip, but going through the third party providers, you can often get a much better deal. But customer service is often less,
Yeah.
which is another reason why using a travel advisor rather than going to some place where you can get a less expensive trip, but again, you get what you pay for. So you might pay less, but if something goes wrong, you will not have the help that you need. You will not have the good customer service to get things resolved. Having a travel advisor, we can help you whenever things go bad. That if you're on your vacation, something goes wrong, we're the ones waiting on hold, calling to get things figured out while you were enjoying your vacation.
Right. And people learned during the pandemic when third party companies just stopped answering the phone. I won't name any names, but you should not buy your travel where you buy your toilet paper.
There's also something he said about buying your vegetables where you buy your tires too, but that's a whole other story.
Yeah.
So my travel tip, I've mentioned this a little bit before, is that there's always something to do at Walt Disney World Resort, whether it's a new attraction, staying in a new resort, taking a tour, doing another activity like golfing or with the characters in Flight Balloon. Some of them will cost more money, but the experience is worth it. And that's why you do your traveling, is that you want to go on these trips and you want to do these things to make memories and to do something new and to have these new experiences. They can impact your life, whether it's just having a grand old time or getting closer to somebody or, learning something new, whatever it is. That is the purpose of travel. So if you're going to get a quality experience from it and have a good time and have these memories, as my dad says, it's an investment in happiness. So
Yes. I've always said that money will come back, but your life will not.
exactly.
So
You don't have the other chance to do these trips always. So if you have a destination or an experience that you would like to have us discuss on the Where Yinz Goin podcast, or if you'd like to share your favorite destination or a travel tip, feel free to contact me. I'd love to hear your feedback and ideas. Amanda, how can people get a hold of you?
I can be reached directly by email. My email is amanda@dreamsbydesigntravel.com. You can also follow me on social media. I am both on Facebook and Instagram at Dreams by Design Travel with Amanda. And or you can find us directly at the website, dreamsbydesigntravel.com.
For me, my social media, I'm at Matt with DBD on Facebook, X, and Instagram. My email address is Matt, M-A-T-T, at dreamsbydesigntravel.com. As Amanda mentioned, the website for our company is dreamsbydesigntravel.com. The information is all in the episode description. So if you need to contact us, you can book a trip, or if you have any questions, you can look us up. You don't have to write all that down now. Please like, follow, subscribe, leave a review, tell a friend about us. Join us next time. We're heading out in that. We'll see you later. Amanda, thank you once again. And everyone else, we'll see you on the next episode.
Bye. Thank you.